Welcome to After the Poll, the video series where I share all my thoughts and opinions on the rest of the comic books that I read for the current comic book week. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content and you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, guys, what are you waiting for? Why don't you hit it? All right, guys, so let me tell you, this was a week. There was about 20-something plus books that I read for the current comic book week, and that's including the indies that I did not receive. I wound up reading them online, and I'm going to be getting them at the shop this particular week. So let's dive into this episode. It's going to be a little bit different just based off of time constraints due to the holiday week, but we're bringing it to you. So here we go, diving into the speed round. It's a much different type of speed round this week just because I had like 26 books to read this week, okay? And even though I did not get all the physical copies of the independent comic books, I read them digitally. So we're going to talk about those as well, and we're going to go into the grades on these ones too. All right, so let's tackle Marvel Comics. It's all going in the speed round this week when it comes to the big two. So here we go. Incredible Hulk issue 19. It's the 800th issue of the series as it focuses on the Incredible Hulk trying to escape from the Eldest. We get to see the return of Charlie, which was kind of cool. Some great artwork here by Nick Klein. And if you're a fan of the series and you've been reading it this whole time, I definitely say keep it up, keep reading it because you invested so much time in it. Unfortunately, for the $8 price tag, you don't get full story here. You get some backup stories, which is always a waste of time and money, in my opinion. The next book we're talking about is Uncanny X-Men. This is issue 6. This book really focuses on those new young mutants. They get to go to school. You get to see how they're bullied at school. And then on the other side of things, you kind of get to see Wolverine going through some PTSD issues and him, breaking down a little bit and, kind of Rogue being that leader, that mother figure in the group right now and whatnot. So it's an okay issue. I don't know if everyone's gonna like this series because of these new mutants that are involved, and I feel like Gail Simone is juggling with a lot of story threads here and a lot of characters. Can she keep this up? I don't know. We'll see. Then we got a Venom War. This is part 5 of 5, the conclusion to this crazy adventure here. In this book, you wind up getting to see what happens to Eddie Brock. We all knew that this was coming. This was spoiled. How he becomes part of the Carnage symbiote. They're both basically dying, and they need each other. So that's what happens there. And then you also wind up seeing who becomes the new Venom here and, why this Venom has this gold power. Was I a fan? No, I was not a fan of this entire run, and hopefully Al Ewing going into the new volume of this kind of cleans some things up and makes it a little bit more simplistic. This whole story with him being a time traveler and all that shit, complete nonsense in my opinion. All right, then we move on to Spider-Boy. This is issue 13. Not only do you get an adventure here with the new Spider-Girl, but you also get the new adventure here with the Hulkette character. And it was kind of cool because you wind up getting to see Spider-Boy and Daredevil team up as they're getting to get into the arena to do this fight. And they needed this golden fang to get into this tournament. And I always like how Bailey Briggs is kind of talking with his mom and stuff like that, going, hey, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be this, but I'm going to be with Daredevil, and things are kind of cool. And you get to see a little bit more of a story with the Spider-Girl character and how she was trained and what her powers are. So if you've loved Spider-Boy, I say continue to read this. This is a great all-family ages type of book. All right, next book here is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 62. Already after reading issue 61 and reading issue 62, this is very much a cookie cutter series, right? Listen, it's not bad. It's adventure. It's got decent artwork. It's got some cool characters. There's a little bit of outside story stuff going on besides the Sorcerer Supreme stuff, right? It's like you find out what happens to Oscorp in this book, but the overall story is pretty much just like issue 61. And I feel like we're going to get that all the way through until we get the new creative team on Amazing Spider-Man. Do I recommend it? Yeah, it's not bad. It's fun if you want to see him go on this adventure and do some fighting and stuff like that. It's fine for what it is, but it's nothing absolutely spectacular. No pun intended. All right, so now we're going to talk about those DC comic books. And one of the better DC comic books this week was Detective Comics issue 1091. We get to see Batman struggle in this comic book about using this serum that helps slow down the aging process and heal some of the wounds that he's acquired over the years, right? And he has a heart-to-heart here with Superman, which was actually kind of cool. And so far, after reading the first 2 issues of Tom Taylor's run, I've quite enjoyed this comic book. Next, we've had Absolute Wonder Woman. This is issue 2. Very curious to hear in the comments below, what do you guys thought of Absolute Wonder Woman issue 2? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What do you think of Steve Trevor making his appearance in this comic book? And so far, there's been no real threat in this book when it comes to an enemy aspect of it, right? But not so bad. We'll see what happens. The last page, though, was definitely kind of a jaw dropper. I don't know how that's going to progress the story all that much, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, the next book is Green Arrow issue 18. This is really the true jumping on point when it comes time to Green Arrow, as we get to see him kind of investigate this mystery of this serial killer. Now, what I noticed about this particular comic book is that there was very little dialogue in here, and I felt that there was not really a great cliffhanger to make a reader continue this book, right? He's very much what seems like a much more quieter character, a little bit of a different character in here, but how would I know? Because there's just not a lot going on in this comic book. I actually might only give this one more issue to see if I'm going to continue to read it, because I wasn't really overly impressed. What do you guys think? Let me know. The next book is Nightwing. This is issue 120. When it comes to Nightwing, I thought this book was actually better than issue 119, as we get to see Nightwing go into this weapons manufacturer that creates this spear tech, right? That was honestly going to create these weapons for the mayor to protect Bloodhaven, and we gotta get to see Nightwing being set up in this comic book as, oh yeah, he's the good guy and this and that, but we do want our animal back and things like that. And we get to see the police being activated as protectors of Bloodhaven and whatnot. So pretty good book. There's good action in it. So I would definitely recommend this one. And then the final DC book that we're talking about today is Superman. This is issue 20, as we kind of get to see Superman do battle once again with Doomsday. We've seen this a lot of times, but we've gotten to see the Time Trapper in here, who is a modern evolution Doomsday, trying to warn Superman of this particular situation, right? And it was a pretty cool book. It was very graphic, and something deadly happens to Parasite where you're like, oh dang, that's pretty intense. But this was a pretty good book, and I would definitely recommend this one, as this one is more of a stronger book in my eyes. So now we're going to be talking about these independent comics as the main comics this week to have fun with. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is issue 4, 28 pages for the price of $5. Written by Jason Aaron. Chris Burnham is the artist on this book, and the art is actually pretty good in here once you start reading the story. At first you're like, why is Donatello dressed like this, right? But really, this is a story about just the deterioration of Donatello and him sacrificing himself to protect all these animals that are in this fighting arena. Because if you read the Free Comic Book Day issue, you got the story of how people are placing money to try to beat animals in the ring, and they all want a piece of Donatello because they just are pissed off that he is literally beating everybody. So you really get to see him sacrifice himself, give others food, and that's why he's so skinny. And it's a sad book, it really is. And then what makes this book really a lot of fun is when he's reunited with his brothers. And you've been seeing this from issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, and now issue 4. And what will make this book probably a next level book is how Jason Aaron actually puts the 4 turtles together and progresses this story now that they're out of their captivities or their own individual styles, right? So if you love turtles, I think so far this is a really good book, and I will be continuing it. So I'm going to give this one a solid B. Let me know what you think of Turtles in the comments below. Void Rivals, this is issue 14, a 28-page comic for the price of $4. This one is written by Robert Kirkman. The art is done by Lorenzo Di Felici. When it comes to this comic book, this one was very much of more of a setup issue. And if you've ever read Robert Kirkman comic books, this is what you can expect, right? There's a lot of slow moments, there's a lot of build up in the series, and then there's always that one issue that there's huge payoff, and it makes reading the story. That's why maybe in very many cases when it comes to his storytelling, it's probably better to read this series actually in trade, right? So in this book, you wind up seeing Derek. He winds up coming back home. And there's a bunch of stuff going on that would take too long to explain in this video, but he's sent out on a mission once again because he wants to kind of gain trust within with his father, right? And it's kind of cool because he did give away his hand droid to Salilla in the last issue, and so he winds up getting another one, which was kind of cool. I'm like, I didn't know you could just hand out these things like they're candy, right? So it was kind of cool. And then at the end of this issue, you wind up seeing a particular Autobot. I'm sure a lot of us know who that Autobot is, but just in case you don't know, I don't want to tell you. So once again, this is a great series that takes place in the Energon universe. A little bit of a slow burn, maybe not as strong as some of the other Energon titles, but it is a solid B for me, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how things pay off in the future with Void Rivals. Spawn, issue 359, 24 pages for the price of $3. The writer here is Rory McConneville, and the art is done by Brett Booth. Now, people ask me all the time, when is it going to be a good jumping on point for Spawn? Because it really hasn't been since issue 300. Well, I have news for you guys. Issue 360 is going to be a great jumping on point for you when it comes to Spawn. And Todd McFarlane is going to be writing the book once again. And also, in case others did not know this, we've been trying to find out when these dead zones are going to collapse again so our Spawn characters can get their powers. Well, based off of what's going to happen in future events, those dead zones will be shrinking once again, and you will see your characters get powers once again. But the big thing about this issue is, will the vampires actually gain dominance over Earth? Because Heaven and Hell have had no powers, there's no way to stop the vampires, and they've been slowly taking over, and you're just going to have to wait and see. The new ally of Spawn, Al Simmons, is really cool, and you get to see a return of Nyx in this book, which was also a lot of fun. Just a lot of great stuff and a lot of great things to come. So again, if you're looking to jump on Spawn once again, I would say issue 360 is the best time to do it. If I had to rank this comic book a letter grade, I'm going to say that this one is a B as well, and that Brett Booth artwork is perfect. Hyde Street, this is issue 2. This is a 32-page comic for the price of $4, written by Jeff Johns, and the art is done by Ivan Reese. Man, the artwork is phenomenally done. Check out this 2-page spread here. That's Pranky. That's who we learn about in this comic book. If you read the first issue, he is the little Boy Scout, and he's trying to collect souls, because if you collect so many souls, if you're the first person to do it, there's a way maybe that you could get out of Hyde Street, right? And in this issue, you really get to learn kind of the origin story, or who Pranky was back when he was younger, back in 1955 when he was 11 years old, and kind of the trouble he got into and all those different types of stuff. You learned about his mother, you learned about his abusive father. And really what this story is about a soul that he takes, and that is about a police officer. And oh my gosh, this became really dark really quickly. And like I said, the artwork in this comic book is just second to none. It's just, they make this kid just look absolutely demonic, and I loved every single page, and I loved learning about this character. And you still don't know everything about him because you don't know how he actually got to Hyde Street, right? So yes, if there is a horror book that you want to read and has a little bit more depth to it, check out Hyde Street. This is a top pick for me, guys, and it is an A+. I really enjoyed it. I found myself very immersed into this story. Universal Monsters Frankenstein. This is issue 4, 32 pages for the price of $5. This one's written and drawn by Michael Walsh. Now, this is the conclusion to the story, and really you've gotten to see over the previous issues of how Frankenstein was created, the different pieces and parts of what makes up the monster, and who the main character, the scientist, Dr. Frankenstein himself. Is he human, or is he the monster? And that's really what this story is about here. And the way this book ended was actually very sad. And I felt sorry for the little boy that was in this comic book. And I also felt sorry for the monster. And you know what? At the end of the day, I felt bad for Dr. Frankenstein as well, because he became something much different over the time and the course of his studies and all those different things. So this book is a phenomenal read. If you have not checked this book out, read it when it comes out in trade. I'm sure it will come out soon. You'll probably pay like $10 for it, and you'll get an awesome story. So I'm going to give this one a B+. It was definitely an interesting read, very much the Frankenstein that you know. The only issue with this one is that there wasn't a lot of dialogue in here, so you'll get through this issue super quick. Grommets, this is issue 6, the penultimate issue, 32 pages for the price of $4. This one is written by Rick Remender and Brian Posehn, and the art is done by Brett Parson. Now, this book continues to impress me every single time it comes out. Now, it could have been very much an every single issue type of, hey, we're skating, getting stoned, you know, skipping school type of thing, but it became a much darker series in the last issue, as our kids are getting ready to have this party, and maybe one kid might score with a girl for the first time ever, and then all of a sudden this party is taken over by a bunch of high school jocks. It's the football team, right? And in this issue, there are some threats that go on. There's a gun involved. We wind up getting to see beatings. We wind up getting to see all kinds of stuff. And it was a very emotional issue, especially when you got to the end, when it came to the two best friends in this book. But it looks like they're going to make amends, and hopefully we'll have a happy ending when it comes to this last issue. Very much a solid read. I'm happy that this book had depth, and I can't wait for that last issue, man. And I got to give this one another top pick for me, man. An A+ book. I love it. It's such a page turner for me, and yeah, I recommend you read it too. Now, if you're not a skater, it might not be for you, but nevertheless, it's an overall great type of slice of life storytelling. Maybe brings you back to when you were in high school. Flash Gordon, this is issue 4, written by Jeremy Adams, and the art is done by Will Conrad. The artwork is great in this book. There's always lots of action, and in this book, you wind up getting to see Flash Gordon do an unlikely team up with Ming the Conqueror as they're trying to escape these from these guys in the last issue that they were in this fighting arena with, and they got in their ships and they're doing like this dogfight. They're like chasing each other, and it was cool seeing these two characters actually team up. You never really see that, right? Because if you watch the movie back in the 80s, they're mortal enemies, right? And it started off obviously this way too. But I think when it comes to this comic book, you don't really have to know that much about Flash Gordon to appreciate who this book is or what this book is, right? It's this guy who, it's a sci-fi book, right? Who is in space. He's trying to escape this planet and he's teaming up with his mortal enemy. This is a great book, man. Just a lot of action, and Ming kind of portrays Flash Gordon in this book. Does it come to bite him in the ass? Yeah, probably so, but we'll see what happens. This is definitely a solid book, guys. The only thing I could say is that if you haven't read issue 1 or 2, you might be a little bit lost here, but it is a lot of fun. So I'm going to give this one a B+. I think Jeremy Adams is a fantastic writer because so far, no matter what he's written, it's been good. Whether it's The Flash, whether it's Flash Gordon, or it's freaking Green Lantern, everything he writes is so good. Feral issue 8 is the final book we'll be talking about on today's episode. 28 pages for the price of $4. Tony Fleece, Trish Forrester. You know, when they said this is like Walking Dead with cats, this is the issue that really sums that up, okay? Because at the end of the last issue, it looks like the cats found a nice little safe haven to go to where all these other cats are at, right? It's kind of like Walking Dead. You know, you find this town, you see all these people living there, and you're like, wow, this place is freaking great. But looks can be deceiving, and that's what happens in this comic book, right? You wind up seeing, what's her name? Is it Elsie? Yeah, Elsie the cat. She comes in, she winds up seeing familiar faces, and she's just like, oh, all the other cats are like, the old woman feeds us and does this and that. And after Elsie explores a little bit, she winds up seeing things that are not quite the way it should be, right? You wind up seeing feces all over the floor. You wind up possibly seeing, you know, old remains of old cats. And we all heard the stories in the past about like old crazy cat women. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on in here. And there's this specific door that you're not going to want to open. And oh my gosh, let me tell you, this book delivers on all angles. Like, this thing just gave me the goosebumps, the EVGVs, like whatever you want to call it, man. This is very much a horror story, and I absolutely loved every single page of this comic book. This is a must read. Top pick for me. A++ for me. I love this book. It does remind me of those days of The Walking Dead when I would get home and that would be the first thing I read, and I was surprised at every page. This is what this book does for me. So, you know, I got an idea going into the new year. Why not do a spin-off series, but doing it with the independent books, right? Just like how Worthy Ones is, where you focus on the Worthy One books, and then you do an independent series, whatever that name would be, I don't know. And then you do After the Pull, focusing on the big two. I don't know, just a thought. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you would like to see that. And as always, guys, I'm going to leave you more content right here for you to click on. And of course, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read your comic books. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.